Welcome. This is Impact 2021. My name is Nathaniel, and this is our conversation where we continue to talk about different issues, social justice, social injustice, where we talk about the church's perspective, where we talk about individual cultural perspectives. It's just the culmination of a bunch of different issues. And so what we do, and for those who are new, is that we have a continuing conversation. And we want you to join into the conversation. We want you to be a part of this conversation. And so type your questions and your comments into the comment section. Please feel free to do so. And as you do, we will address them. This is an open conversation. This is not, it's not supposed to be. Myself talking and then you listening. But this is supposed to be an interactive thing where you can put in your questions and your comments and we address them. And so let's jump right into it, as we always do. And so there's been a lot going on lately. As I sit here, there's so many different things that we can talk about. We can talk about some of the changing dynamics in churches. There's been arguments and disagreements as far as the direction of the church and how it should go. When dealing with race relations, critical race theory is a term that's been tossed around, and that's the acknowledgement of systematic and systemic racism within the church. We can talk about the Asian situation with the anti-Asian hate that's been going on, or hate crimes that have been going on. We can go on and we can talk about COVID and the responsibility of the church. Now that there are vaccines out, what is our responsibility and what is our place when putting together instructions for members who may have questions on the church's things? We can talk about the trial that's going on with the accused killer of George Floyd, the police officer who put his knee on George Floyd's neck. We can go anywhere. It's a lot going on. If we thought that 2020 was going to be this crazy year and that was going to be it, well, then we fooled ourselves, because 2021 is just as crazy. And with even all of that topped on, we can talk about one of the most disturbing things I will say that I've seen in a long time, which is Jim Crow Part 2. The Jim Crow laws Part 2 with the voting acts, with the voting legislation that has gone on in Georgia and numerous other locales, with the over 200 different bills to combat voting, to basically take away voting rights, to limit the number of people who have access to vote, to limit the amount of time that people have access to vote, to basically steal away the votes, and how it systematically is targeting Black and brown people because they assume that our votes are going to go one way. And so with all of that being said, again, if you have any questions, please feel free, or comments, please feel free to type those into the question and comment section. So let's roll right into it. Let's get started. Let's discuss, as they say. And let's start with COVID. So as you know, the COVID vaccine is out. They're up to doing 3 million people a day, or at least that's what they say, being able to vaccinate 3 million people a day. And so the question has come, especially when we're looking at the church community, and even when you're looking at, let's say, the Black church community, because that's the church community that I'm a part of. What is the response of the church when we have people who are debating on whether to take the vaccine or not? I have friends, some who have decided, let's go, I'm gonna go ahead and take it. Some who have decided I'm not. Some who know the history of African Americans and the history of the government and U.S. government and what they've done to African Americans when it comes to just medical situations, and they don't trust it. And then there's others who sit back and say, well, I really don't trust it, but there's a responsibility that I have to make sure that I'm safe and can be safe. As the church, there's been debate. A big issue is that the Catholic Church has an issue with whether or not the vaccine should be taken because it was supposed to be developed from one of the vaccines that Johnson & Johnson was developed from from abortion tissue or abortion cells and aborted cells, which help develop the vaccine. And so the question is, where does the church fall into play? Do we have a moral responsibility to ask people to wear masks and to take the vaccine? Leaning back on the Catholic Church, some of the Catholic bishops have said yes, there is a moral responsibility. It's an issue of justice. If there's something that we can do to help out our brother or sister or fellow man, then we should then do that. And so we have a guest. We have Reverend Cox here. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to start on that initial question. So, Reverend Cox, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you tonight?
Doing great, doing great. And so just to start us off, where do you think that the church falls as far as what's the responsibility as a church when it comes to questions that they get from their people about vaccines and about masks? Is it something that the church should be pushing people to do? Is there a moral responsibility there? Just how do you feel? Because I know that there's a lot of angst when it comes to whether or not people want to take the vaccine.
I feel that the church should be as informative as possible. I think that the church should do as much research before giving, saying whether you should take the shot or not. Me personally, I feel that I would like to do some more research in order to push that issue because we don't know if this is a hidden agenda because of what happened in the past. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a part of the big problem. And me personally, I would not want to be a part of that picture if something decides to go wrong, because there are so many things about the shots that the general public is not hearing about. Mm-hmm. You can see it in the news broadcast, but on a pastoral level, I think we should, if we can benefit from it as a people, as a church, I would suggest informing people about the shot. But as far as pushing them to pursue the shot, me personally, I don't think I would push them into that direction until there's a little bit more research, because we're starting to see different strands of the virus, and they can't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's
okay. All right. Now we're gonna run through. We're gonna hit a bunch of topics today because, as you know, it's a bunch of craziness going on. So we're gonna be all over the place. So let's jump into the anti-Asian situation. And so, according to some studies, there has been a rise of 150% in the amount of hate crimes towards Asian Americans. And you would think, this is COVID. People are sitting at home. How are you gonna be out here doing hate crimes? And there's some truth to that, because overall, hate crimes has gone down 7% in 2020.
Absolutely.
And so I want you to talk to this from two standpoints. One, as a Black and brown person relating to another brown group or minority group to minority group, what is our response? And then as a church, what is our response? As a Christian, and I'm not going to say as a church, as a Christian, what should our response be when we see that people are, really being harmful to Asian Americans?
Well, I'm going to go there. I'm going to answer your first part first. Remember when the HIV/AIDS things came out? They were blaming it on Black people. They were saying, we brought it from Africa. A lot of us have not stepped foot on that soil. Mm-hmm. So I have a feeling that it's that same kind of ripple effect that has trickled over into the Asian population and also the Latino. Mm-hmm. As far as the Christian part of I think that, and I'm going to go with the church. If you are, because we are, as Christians, we are the church, we're the body. If there's something wrong, we're supposed to stand up. We're supposed to stand up and make some noise about it. And I'm not seeing that with the church. as much as we should. And I look forward to seeing that happen because the church actually has a lot of power.
Yeah.
We have a lot of power.
Now, how about those? I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I've heard some things. You have that person who says, well, you know, Asians, they Muslim, they Hindu, they Buddhist, they this, they that. You know, that's not us. They kind of on their own. So if they getting, you know, they need to look. If they got problems, they need to holler at their God. That's not our responsibility. What do you think about that sentiment?
Well, I'm going to tackle that one too. I know a few selected Asian people or people from the Far East, the Middle East, that still practice Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on and so forth. But for the majority of Asians that I've met, they're either Catholic, Protestant, Baptist, just like the rest of America. They have integrated themselves into our culture. Now, I want to say their ancestors or their some of their older family members probably still practice that coming into America, but they do adopt our culture. They do adopt our ways. So that being said, I think people are actually, instead of looking at where they're from, they need to give them an opportunity. And, you know, just like the black man, they are afraid of what they don't know. So.
All right. Okay. Well, let's jump down to Georgia now. We have a comment, and we're going to touch in on that. So, just to frame it a little bit for people who may be listening, in Georgia, they just passed the bill under a secret signing or a private signing, a restrictive bill towards voting rights, taking away voting rights, and specifically targeting people, Black and brown people. What it does is it takes away days, some of the voting days, the early voting days. What it does is it adds additional signage to being able to vote by mail. And so it makes it extra restrictive where you have to have additional documents, IDs, and things like that, basically to try to knock out some folk and make sure that people who are legal citizens can't vote. It also makes it so that you can't give people water or snacks while they're waiting in line. And Georgia has historically had long lines. I know that there's been reports in 2020, not 2020, 2016, that there were lines that were over 4 hours to 8 hours long. And so they passed these bills. And there's some other components of the bill throughout Georgia. But they passed these bills to basically restrict voting. And the comment that we have, we'll go ahead and look at, is the state police stated that they arrested a representative in Georgia because they wanted to avoid an insurrection like the one on January 6th, when one Black woman is compared to the whole insurrection. And so what happened in that is one of the state representatives decided to knock on the door when they were having a secret signing of the bill, basically in protest, to say, look, if you're going to come up with a bill where you're going to steal away the right to vote from people or make it more restrictive, then you need to at least do it in public. You know, you at least need to let us see. Don't hide behind closed doors. It was, I want to say, 7 white men just sitting there signing this bill to be racist against, you know, the greater population of Georgia. So let's just touch on it. One, the fact that the governor's, well, the state police arrested a Black woman who was just trying to, you know, a state representative. Let me not say that. A state representative who was trying to protest the bill. And then 2, just talk about the bill in general, because one of the things that they did was take away the last Sunday of early voting, which is Souls to the Polls Day, which is the day that the churches and a lot of Black churches take constituents or encourage constituents to go to the poll and vote. So they're intentionally attacking the Black church. Just speak on the whole thing, the voting. Just go ahead, just speak on it.
Well, I definitely see some suppression going on. I believe it was what 1965 when there was Lyndon Johnson signed the I think it was a policy or where he signed it in the bill, so we wouldn't be discriminated against. I think it's cowardice for them to do that to her, and also to sign a bill behind closed doors. Unfortunately, I'm going to go on a limb. I may make a few viewers angry, but that's not my intent.
Right, right.
But that door is just a new hood. You know, and I'm not calling out any groups, anything like that, but that was just totally wrong. We've come too far to go backwards. So I think that Georgia and the other states, that I think there's going to be more states getting on board with that same rigmarole.
Yeah.
I think they need to start really listening to the people, because it goes back to Black Lives Do Matter, you know, and this is a different segment of Black Lives Do Matters, because our votes are powerful, and they know this. So if they suppress us, they can get whoever they want inside of the White House. And unfortunately, you know, we don't want anyone that doesn't have everyone's best interests at heart.
We got a comment. We're going to circle back to the anti-Asian conversation. And if this one is, if I may, I would like to interject. We should love and protect all humans as humans. And I think churches could and should reach out and help all cultures, all ethnicities. And I even put in there, you know, if I can, about all religions. You know, that we, you know, churches, we're supposed to have each other's back in that. What do you, well, speak to this comment as well. I know you really already did when it comes to the anti-Asian comment, but our greater responsibility, and even what I'll mix in a little bit more is the conversation that we had in previous weeks, where we were talking about some of the other denominations, Southern Baptists and the Methodists, where they're having debates on their treatment of the LGBTQ population. You know, as a church, our greater responsibility is to love everyone, or at least, you know, that's what some people think. How do you feel about that? You know, when it comes to, okay, some of these Asians, as we talk to them, you may have other religions. Do we still have a responsibility as a church to treat you a certain way and reach out a certain way? LGBTQ crowd, do we have a responsibility to reach out and treat you a certain way? I even go on to say in a recent thing, this guy, this rapper, I don't know, was a little, whatever, the rapper who gave him the fame for making Old Town Road, the song, he's the first, I guess, openly gay hip hop act, and he's coming out here, he's having Nike shoes that say Satan on it and all of this kind of thing. He's really kind of trying to, you know, get some popularity off of the back of being, I guess, anti-Christian. You got people like this out here, but what is our responsibility towards those people who are just on the opposite side of where we're at, or just on a different plane from where we're at?
Well, it sounds like, I mean, I'm not putting a label on anyone. However, we are to love the sinner, not the sin. Unfortunately, this type of behavior has been going on since the beginning of time. We just got to figure out a way to just open up dialogue. That's what it's all about. If we don't have that open dialogue, we're not going to move forward. We're gonna stay in this rut, and unfortunately, that's where America is heading for. We're heading for a big rut. So if we could just open up that dialogue, and just like we're doing tonight, I think we'll start moving forward in the right direction. We'll start seeing things from a different perspective, because a lot of times people do things because they're crying out, because no one's listening to them. Yeah. So maybe we need to open up our ears a little bit and see exactly where their mindset may be.
That's a very good point. I think that's a very good point because that was the point that we made about the protest in general. Is that the whole protest, the whole whether you want to call it a protest or whether you want to call it rioting, I don't care what you want to call it. What we did when it was Black Lives Matter, not what that was on the 6th, on January 6th, but that was a cry out from we're tired of what's going on, and
Absolutely.
and so I think you're right on it. We have to listen to people when it seems like they're crying out. You can't just push them to the side and be like, I don't agree with what you're doing. We got a great comment here. It's a little political, Obviously, the Republican Party has stopped claiming they're Christians. Matthew 25 encourages us to feed the hungry. So if we're standing in line and my brother or sister needs something to eat or drink, do I have a duty to meet your need? If I have a candy bar or a drink, I can't share that. Yeah, that goes directly to the bill that they have in Georgia, where basically they said if you're standing in line to vote, people cannot give them food and drink. Does that mean that this, we talk about the Bible Belt. We talking about that area where they're supposed to be, super Christians. What is? How do you feel about that? Like, what is that responsibility?
I'll tell you, to me. I think that's going to be a liability that a lot of these states they're not prepared for, because what about those that may be diabetic? They need to eat. What about those that have to take a medication? They have to take some medication. They have to follow with food and water. Someone could be expecting, a mother has to eat every now and then. So, I mean, that's another form of discrimination in a way. And that goes back to the point of them not having I'm trying to get this word out so it's good. It's like they're just trying to find something just to manipulate the system. Just to manipulate the people, to cause more. All right. Let's put it this way. All right. You remember the marches and all that back in the day with Martin Luther King. All right. They used dogs and water hoses, and this is kind of. I hope it's not far-fetched, but this is kind of in the same direction. If you're giving out food and water, what's going to happen next? You're going to get arrested. You're going to get dragged away from the polls. You're going to get suppressed where you can't go up there and vote. You see where I'm going with that?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely, because that's the responsibility that churches have done all along. You hear stories about you hear stories about churches setting up booths and having water for people. Because it's absolutely, from my standpoint, I think it's ridiculous that it's 2021 and you have to wait in a line for hours to vote. It's ridiculous that it's 2021 and we have election day. Like that doesn't even make sense to me. You can't vote on the internet. You have to register to vote. I think all those things are crazy.
Okay, for just 1 second. With all of this technology, all of this technology that we have, tablets, iPads, all the phones, all the technology. There's no one should be going to a booth anyway. We should be able to vote from the comfort of our homes. Instead of Uber Eats, Uber votes. You're
right on it with that one. I think the conflict comes into play. As it's. I think the conflict comes into play when you sit back and you meet people who are for us. Now I'm talking about for us as Christian men. The conflict comes into play when you meet someone else who claims to be a Christian man or a Christian woman who is in agreement with some of the oppressive things that are going on. They're in agreement with calling the COVID 19, the China flu or the China virus, knowing that it's hateful and it's hurtful, and knowing that it's caused this people to get hurt, or they're in agreement with legislation, like going back to the last comment, that restricts people from being able to, feed people or give people water at the polls. Some people say, I'm not political. Let's keep politics out of church. And how do you feel about that? Because before you answer, I'll say I don't think that feeding people is politics. I don't think that being, nice to your neighbor who's Asian is politics. I think that's something different. But what do you say to those people who say, "Look, you got to keep that politics out of church"? I'm a Christian, but I just agree that everybody shouldn't vote, or that we need to restrict people from voting, or I'm a Christian and I'll call it the China virus, whatever. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, once again, I don't want to sound like I'm being judgmental, but I think there's people that react that way. I'm going to call them a hypocrite, because that's hypocritical. That's hypocritical behavior. You can't say that you love your brother or your sister, and then in the same token, turn your back on them because they're Asian, or you just feel some kind of way about the situation. That's what I think about it. I feel that they're being hypocritical, and that goes back to Christians we need to check other Christians too, because if we're not checking each other, then what good are we doing to each other? Are we actually sharing? Are we doing God's work? Are we working for the other guy? Because we can't serve two masters.
Oh, that's a very good and controversial point. Is checking one another. Is that our responsibility? That's a good one. Let me get this comment in. It's a great one. I would like to see and hear more Sunday sermons about God's love for all, and not so much about dividing the races. Churches, pastors, they need to set examples. If we cannot, as Christians, set better examples and guide one another and our children towards each as equals, then I am scared for our future. Beth, that's a wonderful comment. Let's talk to that about being a good example. Do you think that by us Christians, by pastors like yourself, being better examples, that we would then be able to, maybe solve a little bit more of these problems by setting better examples? Is it because we've had some bad examples from the church, bad examples from the pulpit?
Absolutely. I think that may be what the issue is, because people they've seen so many bad examples, so we're basically set up. It's like we're set up for failure in their eyes, even though we're doing our best to bring them back to church, bring them back into the fold, to bring them back into the body of Christ is what I was trying to get out. Thank you, Lord. I think that we as Christians, ministers, pastors, bishops, the whole diocese, I think we need to come up with a better way. Unfortunately, we can't bring the people into. People don't want to come into the churches because of all the hoopla with the COVID-19, all of the sanctions that the government has put on us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if the weather's starting to break, I think if we could do the 6 foot apart, the tents outside, and just start getting people, even if it's 3 or 4 people at a time. What's the saying? Build it and they will come. Build it and they will come. Yes. I think that evangelizing outside, them hearing the voice, hearing that subtle voice, it'll bring them back. It'll bring them on home. They'll bring them into church. And I think that fellowshipping together, I think that will break that cycle of what they see on TV and what they hear. Because if they getting a real experience themselves, that's going to change their heart, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the heart. Their hearts are broken.
Okay. I like that. I think that's a very good point. You're right. I think it is some broken hearts out here that need to be that we can fix, and that need to be fixed.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our time. I mean that was quick. That was good. So I wanted, Reverend Cox, I want to thank you for joining us.
Sir.
Everyone, I want to thank you for joining us. We had some good conversations, and thank you for the comments that have come in. Again, we will be here next week. Also, you can join us on Thursdays for Thursday Thirst, the Bible study we have here at Imani Christian Ministries. And also on Sunday, back to Thursdays at 7 o'clock. And then Sundays as well at 10 a.m. For our service. Thank you again. We're going to end on this last comment here, just so people can get it, and then we're going to go ahead and close it out. There is a major difference between Christians and people who operate as disciples of Christ. The term Christian is not just a name. It's a verb. And I think that hits right with what you were saying with the broken hearts.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. It's a verb. It's something that we need to do. And we need to get out of here and go do what we need to do. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again, Reverend Cox.
Yes,
this
sir.
is Impact 2020. Have a good one. Good night. Enjoy.